Hey guys, I've been thinking, what's Jason Hook been up to? He's an insanely talented guitar player that's been everything from a hired gun to a rock star playing arenas. Let's check in with him.
Let's get this thing going with Mr. Jason freaking Hook. What's up, brother? How are you, man?
Hey, man.
Where are you coming from right now? Are you in LA or
I'm in Vegas.
Vegas? Nice. Right on, dude. Is it freezing cold there? Because I got homies that are touring out that way that are getting like snow.
No, it's not. It's hot. We're getting into the summer months, so it's starting to heat up 100-ish.
No, thanks, bro. I don't get how you deal with it, man. I toured once through Arizona, and I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah, it's going to get worse too. So we're only in May, June, July. It'll be over 100, maybe 105, maybe 110. You know,
That is my nightmare, man. Like that sounds terrible.
it is. It's like stepping into a blow dryer.
Dude, well, I was kind of like singing your praises a little bit before you signed on. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, brother. Like I gotta say, man, I'm not only a fan of your playing, but I've watched that freaking documentary, Hired Gun, at least 10 times.
Awesome.
I wanted to kind of get into that a little bit. I mean, obviously, I want to take me through your whole career. I'm familiar with it, but a lot of people aren't. How did you get the idea to do Hired Gun? Like, I mean, you were the driving force behind it, correct?
Yeah. Well, I was on tour somewhere, and I remember I was sitting in the back lounge of a tour bus with our then tour videographer, Fran Strine, and we were just spitballing and talking about how much we love documentaries, and I think VH1 had that Behind the Music series that was very popular, and it didn't really matter if you liked the band or the subject of that episode because they were all done so well, and they peeled back the curtain, and you could see what was really happening with whoever the artist was for that episode, and we were both very much impressed by that. So we started talking about, what if we were to try to make a documentary? And it was kind of funny because it was kind of thrown around loosely, and how much would that cost? And, we thought, well, maybe we can make a documentary if we put a little bit of money behind it. And we thought, well, what would make a good subject? And, both he and I both know so many musicians that are working musicians that I thought, we could probably get a lot of content that way just from the people that we know. So that's kind of where it started,
Dude, well, I mean, when I first heard the concept, some people are asking where you can find it. I think it's now on Amazon Prime, correct?
It is on Amazon Prime, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's so good. And like, obviously as a drummer, I was hip to several of the guys featured. Obviously, like Liberty DeVito is a freaking living legend in his own right. But, I actually got to tour opening up for Bushnell when he was out with Tim and Faith a couple years ago. And I got to meet him, and he could not have been nicer. And he's actually going to do one of these as well. But yeah, man, I want to say how much I appreciate the documentary, because it's like, the Motown guys got their Standing in the Shadows of Motown. The background singers got their 20 Feet from Stardom. And I feel like Hired Gun was like it was our thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I won't lie. The 20 Feet from Stardom movie sort of was a little bit of an inspiration. But I thought that there's a whole genre, and certainly we covered a lot of rock and roll and metal and stuff like that. That there's a lot of those kind of cats that I know from Alice Cooper and Kiss and Rudy Sarzo and stuff like that, and would never be invited to be a part of a movie like 20 Feet from Stardom.
Right.
So I thought, there might be an opening there for us to tell a different story.
Well, and it's like, even with like Sarzo, because I mean, that dude's career goes back, 45 years, man, and he's still doing it, it inspires me. So, dude, honestly, I'm probably going to watch it again tonight just because I'm like, I was just talking with that guy, and then there he is, But man, take us back a little bit, because I mean, obviously, there's apparently dozens and dozens of people watching this that have never watched it. So can you share a little bit of your story, starting from like, growing up to where you are today?
My story.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm originally from Canada, and I at a very early age, I decided I wanted to be a musician, and that was just it. There was no plan B. There was no, fallback plan. And I remember playing in several local bands, but one in particular, band in Toronto, I spent most of my time writing songs, playing the clubs, and we worked very hard and eventually got signed to Elektra out in New York. And we went to Los Angeles, made the record, submitted the record, and immediately got dropped, which was devastating, as you can imagine.
Of course.
Went from hometown hero to hometown zero. And that pretty much trashed that band. Nobody could handle that, and we split up. But I got in my car and I just made a decision that I'm not done trying. And if I'm going to go through this all over again from scratch, I should position myself somewhere where, it's like an epicenter of entertainment, instead of Brampton, Ontario. So I drove down to Los Angeles with really no plan and no money and nothing, other than I had my equipment, my guitar, my amp, my pedals, my car. And I thought, worst case scenario, I can always sleep in my car. No one can tell you can't sleep in your car. They might wake you up and say you can't park here, but no one can tell you to get out. You can't sleep in your car. So I thought that will get it done, for a little while, and I can live off Whoppers and cheeseburgers, and we'll figure it out. I've always kind of been that guy, just roll up your sleeves and get Western with the problem. Figure it out. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's never a bad freaking mindset to have, dude. So that's awesome. Yeah. So what year is this that you moved? So I take it you moved to LA?
Yeah, I moved right to Los Angeles from Toronto. That would have been the early 90s. So I basically, this is a good method is just to be social, right? Yeah. The more people you know, the higher the likelihood that you'll be invited to do something. If you hide from people, then you're never going to get anywhere. People help people. So I just decided, well, I better just start playing with everybody and going to every barbecue, party, show, invite, anything. I was just present all the time. You get to meet people. And eventually I was in... that was my first gig. I mean, I played in a lot of bands and started bands, but probably the most notable band was the Bullet Boys. I don't know if you would know the Bullet Boys, but they were a band from the late 80s that had one gold record and a big hit on MTV. So it was that was my first sort of known gig, and we got on a bus and we were playing around just clubs, and that was a lot of fun actually. And then from there, then I got the Vince Neil gig. So I left the Bullet Boys, started playing with Vince Neil, which I still maintain to this day was the most fun I've ever had playing in a band in my life, of all the bands I've played in.
Dude, yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so take me through because what era Vince Neil band was this? Who were the other guys in the band?
Well, it was basically Vince's solo band, and he's had many musicians in and out of his solo project over the years. But this was about 2003, and the drummer was Brent Fitz, who was also a very good friend of mine from Canada, from Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. Brent plays with Slash now. He's one of the co-conspirators. He's played with Slash, and then this another fellow named Alan Vine was a bass player. So it was just four of us, and maybe that's why I liked it so much, because it was a small group. I was the only guitar player, and my best friend was the drummer. So it was just easy and fun.
Dude, I mean, that sounds like a freaking blast. And that was your first bus gig, yeah?
Well, first nice bus gig, yeah. You really can't beat playing Motley Crue music. I mean, I was a hired gun for Vince, but when that music is amazing. It's just fun music to play and fun music for people to come and watch,
Absolutely. Well, okay, so how'd you get that gig? I mean, obviously you're networking your butt off and doing all that stuff. Did you have to audition? How did that work?
Well, the drummer I was telling you about, Brent Fitz, the Canadian friend, he was in Bullet Boys for about 10 minutes when we were going through drummer problems. I didn't know Brent, but that's how I met Brent. He came into Bullet Boys to help us for a very short period of time. He was in the band for a month, and we hit it off immediately. So flash forward a couple of years, he's in Vince Neil's band. They have a problem with the guitar player. Again, it's all who you know, right? So he goes, well, I know who I want. I'm going to get Jason. So he helped me get into that gig. And that was a blast. That was great fun. I loved playing with Vince.
And how many years were you with that gig before you moved on?
I played with Vince for everything seemed to last a couple of years. In my memory, everything is sort of a couple of years, you know.
So was that when you made the jump from kind of doing the more like rock thing to doing the more like teen idol thing?
No, the teen idol thing, great. No, well, yeah, actually, you're right. So Vince Neil starts. We're out touring around with Vince, and he's starting to come on the bus and take phone calls from Nikki Sixx, and he's starting to tell us like, it looks like there might be a Motley Crue reunion. Now, this is back in 2004 or whatever. So I sort of saw the writing on the wall. If you're going to go back to Motley Crue, then there's no more gig for me. So I started looking around while I was in Vince's band, and it's the craziest thing. I mean, at that point I knew a lot of people, and I started just sniffing around a little bit. And somebody said, "Well, look, it was Mandy Moore first, and then Hilary Duff." So the same guy that I knew from Mandy Moore's band, which I was only the acoustic guitar player for Mandy Moore. We go around to radio stations and MTV and play together. But one of those guys from that world ended up in Hilary Duff's band, or as the Hilary Duff's MD. Now, you have to remember, back then, Hilary Duff was nothing other than the actress Lizzie McGuire on Disney Channel.
Yeah, dude, I was crushing on her hard back then, so yeah, I remember.
Okay, so she didn't really have much of a music thing going on. It was basically her role as Lizzie McGuire on Disney. And her family... Hilary's family is very smart, and they decided, well, while we're having success with her on television, why don't we try to cross over and get her into music? So at that time, things that were very popular were like Avril Lavigne and Skater Boy and rock and roll and punk and all this stuff. So the idea for her was to build a rock band around Hilary. And so I got the call while I was in Vince's band. Somebody said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm about to finish up with Vince." "Why?" They said, "I'm putting a rock band together for this actress, Lizzie McGuire." And I'm like, okay. I had no idea. I had no idea who that was or what it was. All I knew is that when Vince goes back to Motley Crue, I'm out of a job.
Sure.
So I just said, okay, great, I'll take it. Fill me in later, you know? And that also was a really fun time, because Hilary, her career just blew up. A couple of records in, and she was multi-platinum and selling out arenas, and the craze happened. It was like Beatlemania, you know? And I used to make jokes like, I said, you know, you could roll Hilary out into the middle of an arena in a glass bubble and they would still pay to come see her. It really didn't matter what she was doing. It was just, they were such fans of her. But they got some songs together. They had platinum records, and I was in the band. There's one of her videos. I know I'm in one of the videos for a song called Fly, which was the first single off of her second record, Fly. So we set up in the arena, and we're all in there in the video. So, I mean, it's kind of small potatoes based on what I've done after that, but it's funny to look back and go, oh yeah, that's right. I was in one of those videos.
Well, I mean, you know, I remember, because it was Hilary Duff, obviously. It was also, you know, smack dab in the middle of like Hannah Montana, and just those Disney / Nickelodeon like princesses could just do no wrong during that era.
Well, it's my recollection that when Hilary started to have major success, she didn't renew, or they didn't want her. She didn't want to renew herself as Lizzie McGuire because the music was taking off. So as a rebuttal, Disney went out and created Hannah Montana.
Oh, interesting.
That's my recollection. Yeah. Like as a
Yeah, a big old FU.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh, man. Well, and unfortunately, that's all too common. I mean, with Backstreet Boys, NSYNC was the answer to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, dude, that's kind of messed up. So, okay, well, I remember, of course, watching the documentary. There was a certain special fella in the audience who was watching you and went, "Who's that guy?"
Oh, that's right. Okay. So when that gig ended, I was scrambling to find something else, and again, kind of was calling around and stuff. And I played with Ace Frehley for a very short period of time. I don't know if anyone knows that, but I'm a huge Kiss fan, and I guess that's why this is important to me. But I remember one of my buddies called me and said, "Do you want to be in Ace Frehley's band?" And of course, the answer was immediately yes. He goes, "Okay, well, get on a plane and get to New York." So we spent a couple days up at Ace's house in upstate New York, jamming with Ace and his new songs at his home studio. And I mean, that was awesome.
I mean, I'm kind of envisioning like the exact opposite of Gene Simmons' house, which is probably like very sparse Kiss stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, now that I know more about those guys, yeah, Ace didn't really gloat in the Kiss moniker. He's all about moving forward. Like he doesn't care about that. He's like, what am I doing now? And he's been very active as far as life beyond Kiss. And he's still playing.
Oh no, I was saying, I imagine he had some pretty amazing stories though as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, both Peter and Ace had some really good stories. I mean, there's really no love lost there between those two camps, and I think everyone kind of knows that.
So you're in Ace's band, and then what's the next phase for you?
Well, I was really excited to be playing with Ace, and then Ace was like, before we play or tour, I really want to finish my record. And we're like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go back to Los Angeles, and I was sitting around Los Angeles, and I got a call from Eric Singer, who ironically was in Alice Cooper's band, who is also in Kiss. So you kind of have to, where's which cup is the ball under? But so Eric Singer says Alice is looking for a guitar player. Damon Johnson was going to do his Whiskey Falls band. And I said, okay, great. I'll take it, because Ace was going to be on hiatus finishing his record for months, and I needed to go do something. So it broke my heart, because being a Kiss fan, I wanted to be in Ace's band so bad. But when Alice Cooper calls up, you have to go, right? So I joined Alice Cooper's band. I was playing with him for 2 or 3 years.
Well, and it seems like Alice, man, when he goes, it's not those little spot dates. He's gone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could play anywhere in the world. Everyone knows who Alice Cooper is. So if you want to play St. Petersburg, Russia, and then head to South America, and then go to Japan, Alice Cooper, he's like a worldwide icon. So he can tour, and he does tour a lot. I remember that being a very difficult gig.
Well, so did you, have you had to audition for any of these bands? It sounds like you just kind of got in through word of mouth.
Pretty much.
That's freaking rad, man.
It's funny. Most of the bands I did audition for, I did not get.
Can you name any of the bands you've auditioned for?
Sure. Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses.
Was this during the Chinese Democracy era?
Yeah. This was after. Oh boy, I don't want to get it right. This is after Buckethead left.
Okay.
Buckethead left, and they were looking for a flashy guitar player, and my name got thrown into a hat. So all of a sudden, I'm auditioning for Guns N' Roses, and Richie Kotzen is next in line, and it was really intimidating. And Axl wasn't there. They had a video camera pointed at me on a tripod. So I'm sitting there playing Paradise City and all this stuff, and the guys in rehearsal are wasted. It's like 11 o'clock in the morning, and they're doing shots of Jack Daniels, And I'm like, is this a serious gig or what is this? No Axl. Anyway, I didn't get the gig. I think Bumblefoot, who I think just signed on.
I saw him. Yeah.
Or was it Bumblefoot before DJ Ashba or the other way around? I don't know. But either way, or maybe they were both in the band. I don't know. But I didn't get the gig. So maybe everything works out the way it's supposed to. But I really wanted that gig. I thought that would have been really cool. And then Death Punch.
Okay. So, I mean, moving into the Alice Cooper and then transitioning into Five Finger, when you made the decision to move, it wasn't like a lateral move. It was very much going like, okay, now we have to go, and we're still like paying dues. Can you share a little bit about that? I mean, hopefully you saved up some bread so it wasn't just feast or famine, but
no, it was pretty. I was operating on fumes. I mean, when I bought a home when I was in Alice Cooper's group, and so it was gobbling up all my income. But that was my fault. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. But my buddy Jeremy Spencer was starting to roll with Death Punch, and they got the record deal, and the first record came out, and they were on Ozfest or something like that. And I saw that whole thing building off to the side, and they were having problems with their guitar player. There's a recurring theme. It's like whenever you have to get rid of somebody that's a problem, I seem to be the call the Canadian. But I mean, I'd known those guys. I was hanging out with them at parties and barbecues and stuff like that because my buddy Jeremy was in the band, and so they called me from tour and said, look, we're gonna make a change. Are you interested? And I said, yeah, 100%. And they were like, well, we don't have Alice Cooper money to pay you. And I don't care. Money, you can find money. You can, more importantly, I was interested in the opportunity, and I really wanted to be involved in something creative. With Alice Cooper, you're not required to do anything other than to just learn his songs and play his songs, which is okay. But I wanted more, obviously. I wanted to be the artist. I didn't want to work for the artist. I wanted to be the artist, as I'm sure we all do.
Well, and, I loved hearing stories. I love hearing stories like that period where somebody just kind of just makes a jump and you're like, I'm just kind of going in on blind faith that this move that I'm making is not only going to not bite me in the butt, but it's actually going to prove fruitful and be like a worthwhile risk.
Yeah. Well, it was a risk. People are like, are you crazy? You've got a solid gig. Alice Cooper is solid. He pays well too. He pays slightly over Blue Book. So he's smart. He's a smart guy, right? So he's like, I get the best players out there, but I don't want them to be poached. So I'm going to pay them more than Blue Book value for the gig so that they'll want to stay.
Well, that's exceedingly rare in any market, let alone, a legacy act like himself.
Yeah. Well, Alice doesn't like change. So there are guys that have been there for 30 years, they're in his camp. He doesn't like change. So that's how he has figured out how to reduce people coming and going, pay them more than normal.
And it's amazing to hear like such a simple strategy be completely lost on a lot of the artists. I mean, I can't really speak for LA, but I know for Nashville, man, like the pay that we accept here is like just it's dog crap. And one of my good buddies is Nate Morton, who plays on The Voice, and he was asking me once what one of the artists that was on there, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars he thinks his drummer makes, because he knows I know him. And I'm like, dude, he's not making hundreds of thousands of dollars, like by a long shot.
Nope. No, but and I think it's probably even worse now out there. Like the environment is worse or less lucrative than it used to be. But for me, you want to hook up with guys like Alice is a legacy artist, so he's always going to be touring like crazy. So he had income. All he's got to do is snap his fingers, and they could book him for a year solid. He's Alice Cooper. So it's different than joining newer, younger upstart bands where everything is frugal and they're pinching pennies and cutting corners, and that was my experience. And it was, I mean, again, Alice, it was a great experience. I learned a lot from that guy, because it's funny because he plays this bad guy, this evil villain, Alice Cooper, but he's really the nicest, coolest dude ever,
Yeah. Dude, I've heard that from several people that have gotten to like either play for him or just hang out with him, that he's very well spoken. Like he's actually kind of more on like the quieter side.
Yeah, he's totally mellow. Well, he got sober, decades ago. I'm not sure if it's 30 years or something like that, but he decided he was going to turn his life around, and so he plays it pretty simple. He's a very active guy. I mean, he's 70 something years old. He's got way more energy than I have. He's just an amazing. It's like an Energizer bunny. You fly 2 days all the way over to somewhere in Europe, and then the first thing he wants to do is go shopping. I'm like, I'm not going shopping. I
want to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to lay down. But God bless him.
Well, and he's just so rad. He seems kind of like, honestly, he seems to me like what Dave Grohl will be like in 20 years.
Sure. Yeah, Dave is very much like that too. The few times I've met Dave, he plays it real normal. I remember being in a Mexican food place, like kind of a fast food place, and Jeremy and I were ordering our food, and I look behind, and I go, holy fucking Dave Grohl standing right behind us in line. And we got our food, sat down next to the drink dispenser, and the next thing I know, Dave's sitting there holding his cup, filling up his root beer or whatever. He goes, "You guys in a band?" He's just shooting the shit. He's cool. I'm like, that's rad, man. I go, yeah, I'm playing Vince Neil's band. He goes, oh, how's that? I go, it's exactly how you think it would be.
Dude, I met I got to meet Dave at LAX right by the baggage carousel, and he was so freaking cool, man. One of the limo drivers was holding the sign that says Grohl, and I said, hey, I'm a drummer, I'm such a huge fan, can I just take a picture of your sign? And I guess he told Dave the story, and so when I saw Dave, he's like, hey man, are you the drummer who took the photo? And I'm like, nice. Yes, I am, and you're amazing. And he's like, hey man, I'm Dave. I'm like, I know.
Yeah, he's cool. He's cool. Well, he's another guy, he's healthy, up here. He's not affected, and he's not fueled by drama and chaos,
Now, did you happen to know Taylor Hawkins?
No, I never met Taylor. And I know a lot of guys that knew him. Certainly, I loved everything he stood for, a true music lover, happy and again grounded and down to earth. I have a lot of friends that have Taylor Hawkins stories. I kind of that's one connection I wish I had made. But when I left Los Angeles, I by default got disconnected from the music community and meeting and bumping into people and because there's really no music community out in Vegas, not compared to Los Angeles anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, like the Killers was another band that I knew of that was based out of Vegas.
Yep, Killers, Imagine Dragons.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, so we're going into Death Punch territory now. If there's anything you don't want to discuss, please, but I just kind of want to get your take. How was it for you going from being, I've only ever been a sideman, it's their gig, I'm just here to perform a service, to I'm the artist, like I'm part of this now? Well, I mean, mentally, what was the jump like?
Well, it was, I pretty much severed my income from my gig with Alice. Was good income, and it could pay my bills, and I didn't have to worry. I knew that by joining Death Punch that it was going to be about a lot of hard work and joining a team of guys that are also working hard and trying to push the thing up the hill, together. And to me, that seemed really exciting. it's a different mission than just getting hired as a musician independently. Now it's everyone has to sort of rally together, and we're all working towards the common goal.
And how soon after you joined were you guys starting to really see some like momentum shift?
It happened quickly. Obviously it was the first time it's not the first time actually, because I had a record deal when I was in Canada. But they were already functioning before I came along. So they had already passed a certain level. The second record took off. It had Bad Company on it, and everyone gave it favorable reviews, and it went platinum fairly quickly. I mean, in these times, platinum quickly is like 2 years, So you kind of get a sense, like, you look around and go, all the components in this thing are good, and they're the right components, and so it should work. And when I believe that when it's supposed to go, it goes quickly.
Well, and I want you to hear my heart on this, man. You guys are one of a rare breed of arena rock bands, because there aren't that many left.
There's not that many left.
Which is so sad, though. I mean, because when I stop and think about it, looking back, obviously like the Beatles, but the 70s and 80s and 90s, I mean, rock was still healthy. I mean, can you speak a little bit about like what the state of rock music is right now?
I just think that the difference for me was back when I was growing up, there was no assistance from software and computers. And now anyone who really wants to be in a band, you can just make yourself into that person. You can do your record at home on your laptop. You can run a social media campaign, which is sort of equivalent to like things in the old days would be television and movies. You couldn't, as an independent artist, you couldn't get to the public unless you were in magazines, and you have to have great value to be chosen to be in a magazine, because they're trying to sell magazines. So they're not going to put no-name people in magazines. You have to be famous already. So there's no way to help yourself. Now it's oversaturated because people are like, I can't really sing. Doesn't matter. You can do 100 takes, piece it together, tune it, time it, boom, double it. You're in business. Everyone's a superstar.
Well, and it makes me kind of wonder, like, is there any kind of coming back or going back, as it were? Or is it pretty much just like, nah, man, like the train's going off the tracks?
I think so. I mean, look, I'm old school, right? So I'm OG. So when I play, I bring my amp, I crank the shit out of it, and I play without effects. I can play. I mean, I'm going to do that. I don't bring little digital boxes and all that shit. And I think that's kind of lost now. The younger bands are in such a hurry to be active that they skip all the fundamentals. Like, we're not listening to the great songwriters of the century, Beatles, Elton John, Billy Joel. We're not learning anything. We're listening to our favorite band of that week, and we're learning from that band, which also doesn't have the fundamentals. And you know what I mean? So that's my opinion anyway, is that I think that maybe I bring something different to the table, because I liked Kiss. I liked big, bright, over-exaggerated arena rock. I went to see Bush one time at the LA Forum, and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. This band is playing Forum, and there are like little carpets out, and everyone's standing in their spot with their little tweed amp and shit. And I'm like, the little drum kit. I'm like, fuck, man. What happened to like Motley Crue? I mean, blow the shit up. It's a show.
Yeah. Dude, it's funny, man. One of my friends, this guy named Steve-O, he's actually Tommy Lee's tech, and he's posted it like, you guys aren't ready, man. It's going to be rad. Because, like, I guess they're in Nashville right now, like, rehearsing and getting all the pre-pro done. But, it's just there aren't many acts able to do Let me put it to you like this. I remember going to hardcore shows in like middle school and high school in like the back of skate shops, man. You know, like it was rad and it was gnarly and the sound was terrible and you couldn't hear for days after going. And I kind of like missed that a little bit, you know. I never got to do anything but be a hired gun. I was never a band guy. So when I'm playing and going and doing like, you know, little tiny shows, if it's paying me $50, I'm making $50. I never like was at a loss ever. But I had homies that would go out and play on like the Warped Tour, or go play like, so I grew up, you know, in the church, they'd go and play like the Cornerstone Festival, you know, and they were making no money and barely broke even. I always envied people that were able to like just grind it out a little bit. And I just feel like there was something so rewarding about that.
Well, I think timing is very important. I would say that myself and that band caught a wave. We were lucky. The timing was right. It's very difficult now. I mean, we used to tell each other we were the last wave of bands that will see that kind of success. And I just don't know if the state of the industry will be able to create that again. You know, it just seemed like music's free. Everyone, it's oversaturated. You know, there isn't anything that's that special, in my opinion. But you never know.
Well, I mean, that raises my next question, which is, how do you know when it's time to leave?
When it makes you miserable. I mean, look, life is short, right? People are dying. Vinnie Paul, Taylor Hawkins, 50-something years old. I mean, at some point you turn a corner and you go, how is my quality of life? Forget the money, forget what your ego is telling you that you think you need to be complete. How is your quality of life from the second I get out of bed? How do I enjoy the day? I know that's heady, but
no, but in all honesty, man, like that, what you're saying, one is it's truth, but it's also unbelievably hard for some people to grasp, because it's like, well, what do you mean forget the money? Money is the freaking reason why. It's money, or it's chicks, or it's whatever. That reasoning behind why they're doing it. It very rarely is your emotional well-being. Right. You know, the last 2 years, most of us have actually had an opportunity to go like, how am I feeling? How's my heart doing?
You know what? My new philosophy is that money is not success. Success is freedom. Success is not having a fucking boss. I get up, I go to the gym, I fuck around in my studio, I stop, I watch the Johnny Depp court case. I don't want a boss. I'm the boss. I don't want a fucking boss.
Yeah.
So whatever happened with Death Punch, I don't ever have to have a boss. That to me is success. My wife and I want to fuck off to Cabo. We just go. I don't have to ask for time off. I don't have to check with anybody. I love that.
Dude, and you know, I think that's one of the biggest realizations for me over the last 2 years is all I really want is the ability and the gift to be able to politely say, no, thank you. And not need anything. Not, you know, so if a gig comes my way but it doesn't make sense, I can go like, you know what, thank you, but no thank you. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass this along to somebody who's gonna go in and freaking kill it. But for me, it's like that's what freedom is. You know, like my wife and I, we moved out to a farmhouse like right outside of Nashville. It needs a bunch of work, and I'm learning. I freaking cut into my thumb deeply earlier today trying to build a chicken coop. But it's like I'm finding myself out here. Like I'm learning to be able to breathe again outside the freaking city, and it's so like I completely love what you're saying, dude, because it's true, and it's something that a lot of people don't understand until it's too late.
Well, I'm reading the comments here below, and somebody's saying, you know, not all of us have that luxury. Mm-hmm. But I think that, with all due respect, I think that you create your destiny. Mm-hmm. If I had jobs, I hated every single one of them, and I quit. And I think the secret is to be careful not to throw out too many financial anchors. If your goal is to be free, then don't rack up a bunch of debt. Don't live beyond your means, because then you have to go to work. You just tied yourself to that job because you wanted that Tesla. I didn't care about the Tesla. I just wanted to be in a band, make music, make records. And if that does work out, then I can make a decision. Do I still like it? Do I like the people I'm working with? Do I want to stay with that? Or do I want to just do something else?
100%, dude. And, you know, I think one of the beautiful things about like what you're saying is that it's so rare to hear somebody who's gone and done what you've done saying, dude, live within your means. Because that's not rock and roll, man. It's like, no, freaking, you know, live for today. Who wants to live forever? And then you realize like, yo, but these bills are still coming whether I'm working or not. You know, right. Whether the tour's going on. I mean, you know, I don't have a lot of friends they're in like your space, but I have a lot of friends that are doing like the sideman hired gun thing, and every freaking one of them lost their gigs the moment, you know, 2020 hit. Yeah. You know, they weren't necessarily fired, but like the tour was done, you know?
Well, that's a very, that was a cold reality for a lot of people. And I empathize and sympathize for all my friends that, I mean, the techs especially. The techs, they can't go get another gig. Gigging is off. So I felt bad for most of the techs I knew. But, you know, look, for me, I had a few financial policies. I try to save, when I was earning money, I would try to save 2/3 of every dollar.
Wow.
Yeah, 2/3 of every dollar, because you're thinking, okay, and there is pressure to keep up with everybody that's also making money in your band. But I thought, what do you really need? We're never home anyway. What do you really need? So there was a point in time where I did motorcycles and sports cars and all that stuff, and it didn't make me any happier. Matter of fact, it was they're a liability. You know, you buy a car for $100,000 and you drive it home a couple months later, it's worth 85. Then the next year after that, it's worth 75. So I thought, you know, this multiple vehicle thing is for the birds. I don't need that. And they're just sitting under tarps anyway. So I said, screw it. I'm getting rid of all that. The motorcycles went, the extra stuff went. And the only thing that I really allowed myself to have was a studio, because a studio is a tool. There's needs, wants, and tools. Tools help you make money. Yeah. So you buy a tool, and then that asset can help you to create product to make more money, instead of buying like some Egyptian rug that you don't need. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, yeah. And one of the, dude, you're dropping some serious nuggets, because it's like, it's one thing for a super wealthy, just like an Elon Musk, I'd be like, give a financial advice. You're like, okay, dude, but yeah, you're on another level. Then there's guys that are super broke. They rarely give advice. You know, it may be a cautionary tale. You're one of the few people that I've been able to like come into contact with who got out alive and still is saying like what mental health is important. Watch where your freaking money's going. Like, find your joy, find your peace. Like, that's such a freaking beautiful thing, man. Do you I don't want to try to get too personal, but do you have any kids or anything like that?
Kids?
Yeah.
No kids.
Okay, so I have 2.
Yeah, that changes everything.
But you know, but
screw what I just said. If you have kids, you're going to work.
No, but you know, but like what you said, well, like with your girl, man, like the freedom to just do whatever, you know. So since you've moved on, what's the latest for you? Like, what are you working on now?
Well, there's a couple things. I right away I wanted to start a new band, and so people think that I'm retired and I'm just doing nothing, which is painful for me, because for the most part I've been keeping my mouth shut. But I started right away when I left the group. I should say when I departed. I went to work right away writing songs. I have this incredible facility up here in my house with all my gear where I can.
Oh, dude, that is sick.
Yeah, I've got this big room here where I can fuck around, including the Kiss dolls, if you can see that. But anyway, I wanted to start a band immediately and found some great guys and worked really hard and wrote a bunch of music, and then I was getting stuck with who is going to be the singer. And the singer is really important. It's like the singer is the make or break element, you know? You're only if people don't take to your singer, if your singer, if he doesn't have that thing that all the great singers have, then you're just going to be another band, I think. So it was important to be patient, and I mean, it took the better part of 2 years to look around and find the right guy, which I found, thank God. And I'm not going to say who it is yet, but I'm pretty sure we're confirmed, but we just booked Shiprock. The band is going to be playing Shiprock, the new band.
Nice.
In January. So that'll be the first time. Well, it's not the first time I played, because I went on Shiprock in January and played Van Halen songs as part of their, they have a fucking Stowaway Jam.
Did you ever play Rocklahoma? That festival?
Oh, yeah.
So that actually happens not too far from where I grew up, and I didn't realize that it had brought back a lot of those like 80s and 90s bands that had kind of split back together. And I feel like Shiprock is one of those other things. It's like a lot of those bands, they get to go and interact with fans. And I know you've always been such like a huge part of the fan interaction thing. Like, it seemed really important to you. I mean, like, your fans, regardless of where you're at, are super supportive of you. What are some of the things that you've been able to do as far as like keeping the fans informed on what you're up to?
Well, I've been fairly negligent. That's why I agreed. That's why I wanted to do this. You know, like, for the most part, we just met, and a lot of people have been asking me to do things like this, but I declined, because I figured better to start talking about something with people when there's something to talk about. Otherwise, I'm just saying, well, I'm trying to do this. So anyway, you hit me up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk to this guy.
Well, dude, it means a lot, and I told my wife, like, he said yes. Like, you responded, and you were. I mean, it was very cool, but it was almost matter of fact that, like, it was funny, because you were like, yeah, that sounds cool. And I said, well, I'll work around your schedule. Of course, you're like, yeah, just whatever.
Well, look, I think the secret of life is just be cool to everybody. I'm no different. I'm the same guy. People hit me up all the time. I'm outnumbered, but I try to respond. Somebody's asking me questions about gear or whatever. It's no big deal. What am I doing? I just sit here working on music, and I'm on the Instagram, and so I try to interact. I think that will save you. It's like look at Sammy Hagar for an example. He's not in Van Halen anymore. He's never going to be as big as Van Halen again. But he's happy, and he's present, and he goes out and plays. He's in flip-flops and a tank top. He doesn't care. I'm just going to go play because it makes me happy. And, here's something that's interesting. If you look up the hashtag happy on Instagram, let's do it. Let's do it right now. Let's look it up. It's happy. Okay, ready? 683 million followers for happy. Okay, 683 million. Big number, okay? Choose to be happy. If you look up angry, it's like 2 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely telling, especially now, man. I did something the last 2 years, and I every time somebody kind of like came into my head that I hadn't talked to in a while, I reached out and was like, hey, just checking in. How are you? How are things? Just, and I found that it was kind of a therapy, not just for me, but for them as well. Just because, like, oh man, I haven't talked to you in a while. I'm actually doing great, or actually not good, but I'm so glad you reached out. And I'm like, I kind of allow them to just kind of just share what's going on. I feel like a lot of people now are really kind of having to choose joy and having to choose finding something, even if it's like a step back. I mean, when I stepped off the road 4 years ago, I wasn't doing any kind of like major headlines. We were doing some cool shows. That's when I was around, got to tour and connect with like Paul Bushnell. But it's like I was doing stuff, but like my wife was, she found out she was pregnant with our youngest. And I was like, okay, I need to step off the road and be there for her. And it's been a struggle to like slug it out here, because I stepped off the road before I honestly was comfortable doing so. I wasn't quite where I wanted to be yet, where I can go, oh, I'm off the road and I'm here. I just stepped off the road and nobody cared. You know what I mean?
So you're not touring anymore?
So I'm actually, it's looking like I might start going back out within the next like month or so. But yeah, I haven't toured in 4 years. So when all the lockdown stuff happened, it wasn't really like that big of a shift for me. But I watched all my friends just kind of like lose their whole careers.
Mm. Yeah, that probably interrupted a lot of musical careers. It worked out really well for me because even though it's horrible that people were getting sick and people were dying, it bought me some time. The pandemic shutting down everything, but essentially nobody's expecting anything from anybody. So I had time to sort of get it together and work without having to watch all my peers out there playing and enjoying stuff and moving forward. Nobody was moving forward. So, my record should be done maybe at the end of the summer. And that's good because it's just about the right time because everyone else is kind of back on their feet, releasing their records, back out there playing. So it was a blessing for me. Bought me some time.
Dude, well, I got to feel like it had to have been like a weight off your shoulders. You just not feel like, I got to go, got to get, and like, okay, everybody gets to kind of take a step back.
Yeah, well, it was a pause for the world. So, I can't complain. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I think that the new music and the new band are pretty lethal, and I can't wait for people to hear it. I've been tight-lipped on it because I think hype is cheap. But, whenever it's ready, the music will speak for itself.
Dude, that's rad, man. I mean, I'm stoked for you, dude, because it's like you obviously just we've literally known each other all of an hour, but it's just it's so uplifting to hear people like yourself who have been able to go from the freaking lowest of the lows to just the freaking mountaintops, and then you decide when you want to take a step back. It was your choice. It was your decision. And then you're still making moves, but it's still your choice. Like, it's not that pressure from all the outside sources. It's me going, nope, this doesn't spark joy anymore, so I'm dipping out.
And, without going too far into it, playing angry music and listening to angry music, really fun. Living with angry people, not so fun.
100%. Well, dude, I have one last question, then I'll let you go. What would be some of the best advice you've ever gotten from other, I don't even say like sidemen, like just like other rock stars, because you are a rock star, brother. Like, what is some of the best advice you've gotten about just being able to, I guess, maintain during all of the insanity?
Well, sobriety is vital. Sobriety is vital. And I'm not preaching, but I certainly tried my hardest to not be sober at one period of my life. I failed. But the truth is, if you really want to make a career out of it, your reputation is everything. People won't recommend you if you're a drunk. People aren't going to refer you if you're a meth addict. So you want to keep your reputation clean. If you borrow $5, give it back the next day. If you say you're going to be there at 4:00, show up at 4:00. Your reputation is really the one thing that spreads. So you protect it with your life and do what you say you're going to do. And then life will take care of you.
Dude, I think that's about the most perfect way to end it we could ever do it. Thank you so much for doing this, brother. It really means a lot.
My pleasure, Ben.
Y'all, Jason is insanely humble and has a really unique perspective on life. He walked away from one of the biggest gigs in rock simply because it didn't bring him happiness anymore. And you gotta respect that. This is Ben, and I've been thinking.